Hello, hello, everyone. Today is Friday, January 6th, 2023. I thought today we could do a little Friday roundup. Just kind of kick around all the things that are floating in the aether and see what we see. You know, the one thing that is really, really getting me right now, and I'm just going to jump right in, is these Idaho murders. Guys. I mean, this is everything. This case, this spectacle is a wonderful way to deconstruct how these seemingly traumatic, horrific, disgusting, just deeply horrible, no good in any way you slice it. And slice is not a pun, no pun intended there. um, Given the circumstances of the case itself, it's wild. It's the details are so incredibly grotesque. The details are so incredibly grotesque that they serve to override the logic board. Typically, cases like this with details that are so unimaginably awful and visually very stunning. In this case, one of the earliest images that I saw was blood seeping from the walls. An exterior shot of the home, of this home. 1122 is the address. 1122, kind of like 112263. 1122 being the address of this home where in Idaho where this murder went down. And the blood seeping from the walls early in the imagery, for me, it was an indication that what we are seeing here is basically an 80s horror film. No matter which angle you look at it from, it is, it's sorority girls get slashed. This is an 80s slasher flick. This is straight off the shelves at Blockbuster Video when my mom was, letting me pick out anything that I wanted, and I went straight to the horror section because when I was a little kid, I couldn't get enough of it, and I wanted anything, I wanted the gore, I wanted the screaming, I wanted basically Nightmare on Elm Street every night. I loved horror when I was a little kid. I loved it. I can't stand it now. I don't even like to see someone fall off their skateboard on a little viral video. I can't even watch those. I do not like to see people in harm's way or to feel that feeling, even though I know it's fake. When you're sitting in a movie theater and you're watching the film, it's fake, but boy, does your heart rate still go up when you think the killer is just behind the door, And I got that sensation. I got that movie theater sensation when this news story first broke. And it's been hanging around here for a minute. November 13th. November 13th, 4 students at the University of Idaho. If I've said Ohio, probably I did. I said it's Idaho. What's really the difference, guys? Let's be honest. Is there a difference between Ohio and Idaho? Maybe. Actually, I have been to Ohio. I've been to Cincinnati. Ohio. It was a wonderful place. I have not been to Idaho, but I'm sure it's just as wonderful. Okay, on November 13th, we have Ethan, Madison, Zana Kernodle, and Kaylee Goncalves. Ethan Chaplin, Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Kaylee Goncalves were all students at the University of Idaho. They were all found dead at their home, 1122. I think it's Knights Road. Let me confirm. What? Not 1122. King. 1122 King Road. I'm thinking of King Soopers. King. There's something about it. This feels like a play on a chessboard, guys. This definitely feels like a play on a chessboard. king. 1122, just like 1122, 1122, 63 being a very important date in our our collective history. But 1122, King Road is where this went down. And it was near the campus in none other than Moscow, Idaho. Moscow, Idaho. You know, what are the, just that right there. What are the odds that this would take place in Moscow, Idaho, when we are literally at odds currently in a skirmish with Moscow, the capital of Russia, the location of the Kremlin, Moscow, Idaho, Moscow, Russia. You know, there seems like there might be some sort of symbolic connection between the two. But you know, let's just table that little coincidence for now. So the killings occurred on a typical Saturday night. This is a, you know, party night. We're leading into, you know, we're not quite in finals. You know, it's the tail end of a semester, but we're not in finals week, so everyone's out partying, everyone's out doing their thing. So this would be a typical party Saturday. You know, everyone's out and about. But this doesn't take place on campus. This takes place off campus and not at your, you know, typical location for the scene of a campus crime. This didn't happen anywhere on campus. This was off site, which I think, you know, a little bit of a removal from the center sphere allows things to happen out of sight. You know, this happened entirely out of sight and entirely out of earshot of really the population in this Moscow, Idaho, in the school itself, the University of Idaho. You know, this it was sequestered in a way. So it happened in its own little world. So 2 of the victims had been at a bar together, and 2 of the victims had been at a party, but they all got together at the house in the night. And that's where these grisly murders went down. Sometime in 4 a.m. is when it's being suspected that this individual, this another student, a graduate student, just a really incredible individual in his own right, Mr. Brian Kohberger, Mr. Kohberger, which is kind of an interesting name. He snuck into the home wearing all black and brutally murdered everyone in the home. But not everyone, actually. Not everyone. There were roommates that survived that stated that they saw a man in all black sneaking through the house. But did they call the police? Nope. Nope, they didn't. Nope. They saw a strange man wearing basically burglar gear or rape gear, you know, however the scary movies have positioned this, basically all black and a black mask. That's your bank robbers, that's your home invaders, that's your sexual predators, you know, black on black. Talking about, you know, this is not a racial thing, this is a character outfit thing. But, you know, just he and the perpetrator was a white man, Mr. Brian. He's a white man. I'll get into him in a little bit. But something about the 4 a.m. gets me. This is the witching hour, guys. When things happen at 4 a.m., around 4 a.m., and you're going to start to see this more. Trust me. The Seth Rich murder was at 4 a.m. There's something about 4 a.m. and it's been told to be a very mystical time. It's the darkest of night. The sun, depending on where you are, you know, sometimes if you're in Alaska, this may not pertain to you, but typically this is when the sky is the darkest. 4 a.m., pre-dawn hours. It's always darkest before dawn. I think that that's a symbolic tell in its own way. These deceptions are happening literally under the cover of darkness. There's something about 4 a.m. I just want you guys to keep the 4 a.m. thing in your mind. moving forward. You're gonna look back on older cases, you're gonna see it. You're gonna look forward to new cases that arrive, and you're gonna see it. There is something about that hour, the darkest hour before dawn. That was one thing that jumped out at me with the Seth Rich case. And guys, I owe you. I have it. I have a deep dive on Seth Rich ready to go. If you guys don't remember Seth Rich, he was the Democratic, not intern, but he was kind of a low-level politico in the Democratic Party, and he worked directly with the Clinton Foundation, and he worked directly with the Clinton campaign, and he was a fictional character, let's just say that. But the story goes that he was murdered it was 4 a.m. in Washington, D.C., and it was supposed to have been a smash and grab, like, what do they call it when someone like a jacking, when someone just comes up to get your watch or something. The interesting thing about this jacking is his jewelry was all left intact, and his identification and wallet was all intact. So they didn't really jack anything. Again, guys, these are all just details. This isn't reality. It's just details. But I remember noting in many articles, the one thing that kept being brought up into the story was the time. This speculative, but they always speculated it was right at 4 a.m. And I remember looking at the sunrise on that time in Washington, D.C., and it was really just it was the hour right before the sunrise on that day. And that's darkest before dawn. There was a runner in Washington Square Park who was brutally attacked. That was also at 4 a.m. You're going to start to notice it. Just keep that one in your back pocket, guys. Okay, so authorities, the Moscow police, and guys, the Moscow, Idaho police, this is their first rodeo. This is their first rodeo when it comes to crimes like this. And this is so interesting. I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but this reminds me right now of JonBenét Ramsey and her quote unquote murder, and the Boulder police, the Boulder PD, responding to the crime, to the case. The authorities, wholly unequipped. They literally had never seen a murder in that sleepy town. This is also a similarly sleepy, it's a college town. Things go down. There's probably some drugs. There's probably some overdoses. There's probably some alcohol poisoning. There's probably some fights that break out. There's probably some, sexual things that go down, at the frat house. There's probably some girls and maybe some guys that have an inappropriate experience sexually, and gets reported. But murder? No, not murder. Not in sleepy Moscow, Idaho. So these authorities, they go weeks without identifying a suspect. And this is interesting, they plead with the public for tips and videos that could help them piece together what led to the crime. Guys, this is also a big part of it. By inviting the public in, by inviting these tipsters, you guys have no idea, and maybe you do, maybe we do now. People out there are sickos sometimes. There are some individuals that will make up connections, they received thousands of tips. Guys, this happened at a house off campus. The stage is a house off campus. And it was all kind of sequestered. How do thousands of tips come in? How do thousands of individuals provide helpful information on this? 99.999%, I would say, of these tipsters have zero connection with the place, the time or place, anything. Like, they're probably in BFE, they're probably in Ohio, in the other one. They're not, what I'm trying to say is they're nowhere near. Like, they're just calling in to feel connected to this case. Individuals will literally make up tips. They will make things up and submit it. And they will make up anecdotal connections. that like, oh, I know this person. Oh, I saw this person at da 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 da. None of it's true. Like this is a fascinating element of when we open up tips to the public, when police open that up, and you guys, you will see this. They don't do this in real crimes. They don't. They do this in these massive fake crimes. They open it up to the public because what that does is it makes it real in the eyes of the public. It makes it more immersive. It makes it interactive. So they went forever without identifying a suspect. Surprise, surprise. There's no suspect. But what they did in those weeks was just fan the flames within the public. They made it real by saying, we need your help, public. We need you. We need you in this. It pulls many people in. Many people are ready and just waiting for the opportunity to serve in this way. And it doesn't matter that they have zero connection to the case. That doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Once the invitation is extended, a lot of these yahoos just jump right on it. Thousands, guys, just pouring in. And that's a part of the magic. That's a part of the spell. It makes it real. And us, sitting out here, and I say us, we're a little bit of a different audience, but for the general public, when they understand that there's a tip line and thousands of people are pouring in, they go, wow, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Look at the public responding. We're going to get to the bottom of this. So anyway, they spend weeks, kind of brewing this loosh cauldron, sprinkling in some public tips. They'll alert, they'll put some of the tips up, and of course those are complete dead ends, one dead end after the other, of course, because these cases are designed as such. They're designed to be unsolvable. So of course these little tips go nowhere. But then on December 30th, right before the new year, this, again, Loosh Fest of the year, they had to sneak it right in. They arrest Brian C. Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology student at Washington State University. It was about 10 miles from Moscow, so a little down the road, and they charged him with murder. Now, I want everyone just to take a couple minutes to look at this Mr. Brian C. Kohberger. He's got a real weird look to him, a real unreal look to him. He looks like an amalgamation of boogeymen wrapped in a Mark Zuckerberg-like facade. He's kind of got this, he's got, the real nerd thing going, but he's also got the eyes of, he's got the dead eyes, that's one, but he's just got the face of someone that just might do this very thing. Because over time, guys, we've been programmed to understand what the face of a quote unquote killer looks like, what the face of a deranged individual looks like. A lot of these school shooters, guys, this isn't a school shooting, but a lot of these school shooters have a very similar look. And because they do, we take one look at that mugshot and go, oh yeah, that guy definitely did it. That guy's definitely a school shooter, because it's a template. And our minds, our brains are programmed to accept the familiar. We're pattern makers, we're pattern recognition machines, and those patterns create shortcuts. And so if we see something that follows a pattern, we see this face of a killer that looks like a killer, it looks like a deranged serial killer, we go, oh yeah, just look at him. Oh yeah, just look at the guy. That guy's a killer. That guy's a weird guy. That guy's a weird dude. He's definitely going to murder people. We do this, and it's so insidious and so well done. We don't even know that that's what our brains are doing. We don't even know that, we don't even need the details. We'll just see the picture and go, oh yeah, that guy looks like a killer. Case closed. We do that all the time. And again, I'm using the we as humanity. I think that this little bright corner of the interwebs that we've created here on Real Life Radio, we we look at things a little bit differently, but the general public, all they need is something to fit a known pattern, and they're in. They're hooked, guys. They're hooked. Okay, so he was charged with murder, and then he got extradited to Idaho. So Mr. Kohberger, he was taken into the custody. He was at his parents' house in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, the Poconos. And then in early January, he was transported to his initial court appearance. And during that hearing, he agreed to be extradited. So he agreed to come to Idaho to face 4 counts of, first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Like I said, he was wearing the burglar outfit. So you gotta, he's wearing the outfit. Let's charge him with crime. I'm not sure how when you're already in the house to commit murder, do you really need the burglary charge? I mean, he did steal, in the story at least, he did steal their lives. Legally, burglary is the entry into a building illegally. It's the illegal entry with the intent to commit a crime, especially theft. It's usually around theft. That's why we kind of think of it as theft. But, you can illegally enter a home to commit murders, yes. So that can be an offense that is a result of the burglary. This reminds me of the Burgermeister in Germany. The Burgermeister, when I was little, the Burgermeister was obviously fictional, but it was a, kind of a grim bedtime story, which I loved at the time. I loved scary bedtime stories. But when we lived in Holland, the story of the German Burgermeister, he was kind of a monster that lived in town, and he would break into the homes of children who were not yet sleeping. If you didn't go to bed at bedtime, the Burgermeister would burgle your home, would break into your home and kill you because you weren't sleeping yet. And he wouldn't just kill you, he would eat you. He would eat you. The Burgermeister. Guys, I loved this. I loved these stories. My favorite scary story that I would tell my dad, it was just called Dead Body. My favorite scary story, and he would just make it up. Like it was his own. He knew I liked scary stories. And so I would say, tell me dead body, tell me dead body. And the story would be just really idyllic. It would be, like a beautiful fairy tale. And then all of a sudden, without warning, there would be just a horrific twist. I loved it. And he was great at it. My dad was excellent when it came to thrilling suspense. It'd be this idyllic fairy tale bedtime story. And then all of a sudden, it would devolve into dead body. There'd always be a dead body. And how we got there was always fun, but it would always end with dead body. And I just loved it. I couldn't get enough. I wanted dead body read to me at bedtime. And by read, it's basically my dad just making it up on the spot each night. A little different twist to the dead body story, because I wouldn't let him recycle them. He had to come up with a new plot line. Dad, like I'm an open audience. Give me your best stuff. Don't recycle anything on me. Give me your workshop. Let's workshop this together. If it's not fully formed, let's form it together. So I really pressed him to make up a new dead body story, which required both sides. It required him doing the introduction of the idyllic. We needed a nice fairy tale opening, so that had to change too. We couldn't just have the same, kids frolicking in the woods. It couldn't always start that way. So I really tasked him to be original with these, and he delivered. He really did. And then, the it would always have some grim twist, which I loved. So if it wasn't that, it was the Burgermeister, and I just loved all this grotesque stuff. I loved it as a kid. The fear of death was thrilling to me. The idea that if I didn't close my eyes at a certain moment and didn't fall fast asleep, and I'm a good sleeper. Maybe that's why I'm such a good sleeper. Like the second I close my eyes, I'm out. I am out. And maybe it's because the Burgermeister. But I loved it. I loved thinking that at any moment, if I wasn't sleeping, the Burgermeister would just burgle his way in and eat me alive. And that'd be it. And that'd be the end. And it would be my fault because I didn't go to sleep on time, my bedtime. Back to these murders. Mr. Kohberger. Mr. Kohberger. God, what a name. Okay. So DNA, which I think is kind of science fiction. You know, what we think can be done with DNA, what we think is being done by these crime labs. I just don't believe in it. I truly don't. I don't think that they are able to identify through DNA in the exactness and the exactitude that they tell us they can. And all these complex CSI maneuvers and machinations, I think a lot of it is for show. And I simply do not believe that DNA is what they tell us it is. And I don't think that it works in the way that these crime scenes, you know, make us believe. But we as the public, again, collectively, we believe them to be kind of silver bullet. We believe that the DNA, if you read the word DNA in the midst of a crime expression in some sort of article and they've got the killer's DNA, you're like, ooh, we got him. We got him. DNA, slam dunk. He's going to jail. You know, we just for some reason we think that DNA means like a silver bullet. Like it means it's a surefire thing. It's not. Okay. So they, of course, DNA is a big part of this. On December 27th, police managed to retrieve some garbage from the house that Mr. Kohberger was staying in. This is in Pennsylvania, where his parents were, in the Poconos Mountain. Beautiful area, the Poconos. Oh my goodness, just a beautiful mountainous kind of and again, the Poconos Mountains are an idyllic place. Kind of just for all this to go down in such an idyllic setting is, again, like this max polarization, you know, for anything to go down in an idyllic town, just like JonBenét Ramsey in the sleepy idyllic town of Boulder, Colorado, where nothing had ever gone wrong. Tragedy strikes in the fairy, you know, it's a fairy tale. It's dead body. It's dead body, guys. This is dead body. My dad was onto something. It's the most idyllic start, and then dead body, you know? The most idyllic setting, most idyllic narration, just everything seems to be going so beautifully, and all of a sudden, tragedy, extraordinary tragedy. So the police, you know, the whole concept of getting the DNA from the garbage. Okay, so the police managed to retrieve some garbage from the house, and they sent what appears to have been, wink, wink language, appears to have been does not mean was. You know, appears to have been doesn't mean anything. It just, it makes it seem like something is true, but it's actually negating the next sentence. Appears to have been is a qualifier saying, and just because something appears a certain way doesn't mean it is, right? So it's a wink, wink. Appears to have been is a great wink, wink language. So the police, they sent what appears to have been a DNA sample from Mr. Kohberger's father for testing. And the results showed a strong probability that the elder Mr. Kohberger was the father of whoever left the DNA on the knife sheath. So that's an interesting thing too. The killer left behind the weapon, the sheath of the knife. And, you know, sheath is an interesting thing. Sheath is a cover. A cover. A cover. What is a sheath? A cover. In this case, it's a cover for a blade of a knife or sword. Also, in the human body, a sheath is a structure in living tissue which closely envelops another. It's also a protective covering around an electric cable. Electric. But in this case, it's the cover for a knife or a blade. So we've got two things. We've got the cover of darkness at 4 a.m. and we've got a cover left behind. Something something about this, guys, seems to be blanketed in deception, covered in deception. So the killer leaves behind a very important thing with his own DNA on it. So then there was, because of the DNA, because of this silver bullet, they had everything they need. And so there was a pre-dawn raid on December 30th, and the police broke through the windows and doors of the family home, again in the Poconos Mountains, and they arrested the younger Mr. Kohberger. And then they searched his car that he had driven with his he just driven the car. So they searched the car for any evidence. And weirdly, the story goes that this individual changed his license plate right after the murders. That's not a quick change, guys. To change your license plate, I mean, unless you just had one kind of handy, that's not just like a quick thing to do, get a new license plate. That was just an interesting detail. Okay, so after Mr. Kohberger, Brian C. Kohberger, after he's arrested in this raid, again, guys, in a pre-dawn raid on December 30th. Again, pre-dawn. What does that mean? Why are they saying pre-dawn? They just could have said the time, but they want you to know, again, what is pre-dawn? What is literally preceded by dawn? The darkest hour. It's always darkest before dawn. The crime happened pre-dawn hour, the raid pre-dawn hour, under the cover, under the sheath of darkness. So after the raid, they go, now they got their suspect. We got him, guys. They go and interview classmates of Mr. Kohberger. Classmates. I don't believe this individual actually existed. I personally do not believe this Mr. Kohberger is a true individual. I don't believe he was an actual student. There's a lot of like conflicting messaging from the so-called acquaintances of Mr. Kohberger. There's one thing that they all said, though, that he was obsessed. He was obsessed with criminology. Mr. Kohberger was obsessed with crimes, with criminal psychology, with crime scenes, that he was simply obsessed with how the criminal mind works. Okay, now, if I'm a professor and I've got this, serial killer looking like person, he looked like a serial killer. He kind of looked like a Voldemort from Harry Potter. Okay, so I'm a professor. I've got Voldemort in my class. Voldemort is weirdly obsessed with the criminal mind. He's weirdly obsessed with crime scenes. He's specifically obsessed with how police try to identify suspects and how suspects get away from being identified. If I had someone in my class who was a total creep and was obsessed with this type of thing, you'd think that would be some like red flags. You'd think that someone would maybe raise a hand and go, I don't know about this guy. I think he's about to kill some people. Lots of red flags all around. Many people, it seems, these colleagues and associates, which I don't take these as fact. I take them as details within a story. He was also, many people recalled that Mr. Kohberger was forceful and condescending in challenging the ideas of female students during discussions in classroom settings. He would seem, the story goes that he basically hated women. He was a misogynist and he hated women. kind of want to, this is kind of going, we're very familiar these days with these incels, with, these individuals that develop a hatred towards women because they can't have them for whatever reason. So that's what's being, pushed on this individual, but all these things, like, it's just backstory. It's just a backstory. So one thing that he was also supposed to have been very interested in is something called rational choice theory. Rational choice theory. This was an idea proposed by, supposedly, I don't believe in deep history, so I don't believe even this telling of it, but apparently Adam Smith, who originally proposed this idea of an invisible hand. If you've ever heard the invisible hand in the free market economy, this was pioneered by an individual, or a character in our history books named Adam Smith. And he is usually credited as the father of rational choice theory. The theory's core is threefold. It's that individuals have selfish preferences, they maximize their own utility, and they act independently based on full information. I first learned of rational choice theory in marketing. And it's kind of all about, when someone is going down the grocery store aisle, what makes them choose Kellogg's Corn Flakes versus the flakes of corn next to it, the generic version of this thing, or what makes them, it's specifically with purchase power. Rational choice theory has typically been looked at through market decisions, through an economic lens, but it's also been later now, and seemingly through this character, Mr. Kohberger, rational choice theory is attributed to how criminals decide to do their dastardly deeds. What type of rationale they use, what type of reasoning, because not all crime is in the heat of passion, right? Not all crime happens kind of in a flash, and then you're like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? That, some crime is premeditated, deeply premeditated, deeply rationalized, deeply thought out. So this individual, Mr. Kohberger, was very interested in rational choice theory. He took the field of study very seriously, is what his colleagues have said. Okay. I did not even do that was a poor approximation of the details of the case. I didn't even get into it. This was not a deep dive into this. We'll maybe do that in another time, really get into all of the details of the case. I just wanted to paint a little picture of what kind of got us here. We've got whispers of extraordinary creepiness. The story goes, this individual was obsessed with the criminal mind, obsessed with crime scenes themselves, obsessed with how criminals make their decisions, obsessed with how criminals get away with crimes, obsessed with how police go about their procedures. Obsessed. He was obsessed with this. And maybe that obsession, maybe it's telling us that we should take a closer look at all of these things too. We should take a closer look at all these things. One thing that I find very interesting, and I meant to go into this deeper at the top when I was talking about the Boulder police, but every sheriff's department in the United States is an independent island. Every police department, every local sheriff's department is an island. There are 19,000 such islands. And what I mean by island, I mean if a crime goes down in a sheriff's jurisdiction, in this case, it was the Moscow Sheriff's Department, the Moscow Police, Moscow PD. No other police entity, including the FBI, no other entity can legally intervene unless they are asked. Unless they are asked. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Everything is under its own autonomous operating system. Even if the police department is wholly unequipped for such an undertaking, like Boulder PD was with the JonBenét Ramsey hoax, essentially. You know, they refused, for reasons that are very clear to me, but at the time unclear to the whole world, they refused help from the much better equipped Denver PD, the FBI. They refused for a while, and then they invited some in, but they invited in some outside characters to assist with the case. But there's something there. There's something about how these crimes are investigated, how they are handled, that we should become obsessed with this, actually. We should take this field of study very seriously. We should be more keen and curious about how these crimes are actually investigated, what goes down. It is interesting that rural police departments are tasked with doing the collection and analyzing of all this data. You know, they're tasked with doing the collection of these items. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I mean that in the nicest way. I mean that in the most sincere way. These tiny little, especially in Moscow, Idaho, guys, where their biggest kerfuffles usually involve drunk, call it, just drunk kids, not 80s slasher film horror movies where the blood is seeping from the walls. And you know what? Let's go back to that. The blood was seeping from the walls in the early pictures. Okay, all right. Blood seeping from the walls, which would indicate there's just blood everywhere. There's so much blood. For blood to seep from the inside out, houses are pretty well constructed. You know, the seepage of thick, viscous material to seep out the walls, that's a near impossible feat. I mean, in my mind, that image, the blood seeping from the wall, was pure theater. Pure theater. But the blood seeping from the walls. Okay, so you would imagine that the whole house is just covered in blood. Covered. Like a messy situation. And yet, the surviving roommate, she didn't call the police until noon? And she even woke up in the morning and just thought that her friends were sleeping? What? Huh? That doesn't add up. That doesn't add up. And gosh, there are so many other, I should have done a little bit more gathering of these things that don't add up, but I am extraordinarily heartened. I'm extraordinarily heartened by how many people I see, how many normies I see questioning this narrative. Questioning the narrative. Saying outright that this just doesn't add up. Just doesn't add up. The details of the story, they aren't adding up. And I saw one CNN post today. I saw it, and it was about, let's see if I can pull up the post. But it was all about the roommate. It was all about the surviving roommate. And then I noticed that in the comments, people were outright, and not just one, but two, but three, but four, but five, the whole, like many, I was scrolling and many people were saying, wait a second, this is like, this simply doesn't make sense. This does not, like, these details are not adding up. How did this roommate not see the blood everywhere and call the police immediately? How did she think that people were just sleeping? Why? And then apparently there's another person in the house that came to the house. There was two people should have been witness to the blood inside, but yet they didn't think to call authorities. They had no reason to call authorities until the afternoon. So, one thing that I said, and from the very beginning, I felt that this felt like an 80s slasher flick. My comment on CNN Today, I said this entire story reads like an 80s slasher flick. 80s slasher flick. The thinness of the plot is concealed by the grotesqueness of the details. When the details are so wild, we don't question how vaporous they are, how thin, how nothing supporting them, how unbuttressed they are by truth. I said the thinness of the plot is concealed by the grotesqueness of the details, overwhelming the logic board for most. But many are recognizing that this case just doesn't add up, possibly because it's a whole cloth fabrication. I posted that, because many in that very comment section were saying, what's going on here? Like, this stinks. This story stinks. Okay, so back to the slasher film. Someone responded to me today and said, and I heard this, but I forgot to put two and two together. They said, yes, and his sister, meaning Brian Kronberger's sister, his sister starred in a slasher movie about 4 students who are stabbed to death. I love to say life imitating art, imitating life, imitating art, imitating life, imitating art. I mean, guys, the killer's sister starred in slasher movies about this very thing? What are the odds? What are the odds? And when I say sister, I mean, I'm putting that in air quotes. When these people are characters. And yes, we're probably going to get footage of that slasher film that his quote unquote sister starred in. Doesn't mean it really existed as a movie. It doesn't mean it was real. It's just for this narrative. It's just for the storyline. Oh my God, that reminds me of Gabby Petito starring in the Sandy Hook memorial video. Ugh. This is such a shallow pool, guys. Why did Gabby Petito star in the Sandy Hook video? Because she's a character in this very, very shallow story. I'm gonna do this more justice. I'm gonna do this story more justice. I kind of jumped around. Welcome to the inside of my mind. It's not always great. It's not always great. Sometimes it's a little messy. But this just doesn't add up. The 1122 King Road, that one certainly gets me. Being in Moscow, that one gets me. His sister being involved in this exact thing, seemingly, I say, okay, his sister appearing to star in slasher films, appearing to star, because that's what it seems. She appears to, we're going to see it, and she's going to appear to do this. Doesn't mean it's real. Him being obsessed with all of this stuff, with this stuff that I think we should be more obsessed with. We should be more obsessed with how the police, what DNA evidence is. We should be obsessed with this. We should be obsessed with this instead of believing it because the authorities say so. We should. I kind of am. I want to pick this apart. I want to pick this apart, and I want to take every single one of these little breadcrumbs that we've been given through this story. You know, the pre-dawn hour, that's a breadcrumb. The sheath of the knife being left behind, it's a stretch, but I think that points to the cover. You know, the cover of darkness, the cover of deception blanketing this entire case. None of it is real. None of it is real. Okay, guys. Like I said, I'm going to do a better one. I'm going to tighten this all up. Tighten it up. I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to get more details. I'm going to put it all together. Thanks for indulging me on this. I appreciate it. But everyone look into it. I want, you know, with just these little bits and bobs that I've kind of covered here, I want y'all to take a look-see. You know? I want y'all to go through these news articles, especially the early ones, you know? Especially the early ones. Oh, and I'll post this, but the University of Idaho has a whole, like on their front page, the front page of the school website, there's this interactive experience where you can like dive in and you can participate in every element of this case. Every detail of the case is mapped out on the website, on the school's website. They're giving you every detail, blow by blow. I find that to be highly unsavory and a little suspicious. Why would the school? Why not have that on the police department's website, guys? I mean, really? Why would the school want to be broadcasting this? And it's on the front page, literally at the top of the page. The entire entrance, the top fold on the homepage is this case. That seems a little odd. Seems a little odd. It seems like it's a production. It seems like it's theatrical production. It seems like it's being promoted in such a bizarre way that they want the public, again, like they opened up for the first few weeks before anything was known, except the goriness of the details. Oh God, I just saw something. Okay, 1122 is the 11. I mean, this is a stretch, but I love it. 1122 is the house number. 6 is the unit number, and it's a 3-story house. 1122 63. 1122 63. Right there in our faces. Oh, and I saw one of the fathers was wearing a hat. I see him in a couple pictures, and he's always wearing this hat. His name's Steve Goncalves. He was the father of Kaylee, one of the 4 victims. And he's always wearing a hat that says HEX, H-E-X. Hex. What is hex? What is the meaning of hex? Well, a hex is a magical spell or charm that's meant to cause harm. That's what it is. You know, I'm sure that there's a company or something. Seems like there's a brand called Hex. So, sure. But this seems to be a little, this whole thing is a magical spell. This whole case is a magical spell. And the fact that the father of one of the victims is consistently seen wearing a hat that says the word H-E-X on it, I don't know, guys. Something about it. Something about it. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. Again, like I said, I did not do this justice, but hopefully I wet your beak. Hopefully I whet your whistle. And you guys can go take a little look. Look at the I'm going to post some links. Take a look at these links. And I want you to tell me what you see. I need some help on this. I need some help on this one. I'm not able to see all of the details. I can't see it all. But what we have created here is a highly interconnected and quite vast network of incredible talent when it comes to detailed deconstruction. Some of you guys out there are better than me when it comes to this stuff. And after time, these details will jump out at you. You don't even have to work that hard. You really just have to read the stuff that's right in front of you. You don't have to scour. Look at the main material, the official material. You really don't even have to go down into Reddits. All of this wink wink language, all of these key details are found in the main reporting. Just start there. Tell me what you find. Tell me what jumps out as weird to you. Let's do this together. Let's do this. Let's use this as an incubator. Let's use this one as a little test platform to sharpen our skills, to sharpen our blades, our unsheathed blades. Let's do this together. I want your help. I want to see what you see. All right, and we can use Discord. I'm going to create a new channel called True Crime. Maybe I'll call it False Crime. No, I'm going to call it True Crime just because we all know what we're talking about here when we say true crime. Or something. It'll be something. I'll name it something. And I'm always up if you guys have a better name. I love when you guys best me on the names. As much as I love words, I respect a better combination of words when I see one. Let's do this together, though. I think this could be a really fun interactive thing. Share what you find. Look into it. Share what you find, and let's just keep our eyes open. Let's keep our eyes open on this case. We have not seen the last of this case. I have a feeling they're going to drag this one out all year if we let them. So let's get ahead of that. All right. I was going to talk about other stuff. Welcome everyone who's new. I saw quite a few new people jump on in. So excited to have you. So excited for you to be here. If you're new on an introductory tier, welcome. You will be able, to get all the latest. I'm going to include this one on the freebie. I'm going to include this one so everyone can hear it. Just as a nice little welcome to all the newbies. But know that if you're on a lower tier, that there's so much more. There's a lot you may not be seeing on your Patreon app. To get everything, to get all of the bonus episodes, to get all of the content that's there at the Vibe Tribe level. But if you're new and on the lower level, there's plenty to get through. But if you find yourself getting through everything and wanting more, there's more. So we got a whole world that we've created here, and I invite everyone to get into it, to dive as deep as you'd like. So there's always more if you want more. And then if you're on the highest levels and you still want more, God bless you. God bless you, because that means that you really like what we're doing. And this is a year that I'm dedicating towards Realize Radio. I have stripped so much of my normal responsibilities away. I am making space. I am carving out, again, not a pun on this case, because he did carve his victims. But I'm carving out time for stuff like this. And I think that we're going to have a lot more bonus episodes. We're going to have more, I don't think, I know. We're going to have more bonus episodes. We're going to have a lot more guests on this year. We're going to have, more listener spotlights, more guest episodes, more bonus episodes, more, of course, we'll continue to have the regular content, which is basically one episode per week, plus some little hellos that I do from time to time. But it's going to be it's going to be a good year, guys. It's going to be a great year. And I want y'all to be part of it. You already are. I mean, you're the reason this all is happening. But for this case specifically, I want to do it together. I want to do this one together. Let's tackle this one together. Okay. Oh, one last thing before we go. I would like to if you're still listening, which means you like it, I would like to task everyone who is still listening, so I know you like this stuff. I challenge you to tell a friend. I challenge you to tell one person. It doesn't have to be someone in your quote unquote real life, but because I know that can be kind of scary to admit that you are into these types of explorations. That can be a little. I mean, I don't really share too much in my real life either, so I truly understand. But I would like to task you with a word of mouth challenge. The only way to organically grow this effort, and that's the only growth I care about. That's the only growth that matters to me, is organic growth. And from my experience in the realm of marketing and advertising and brands trying to one up each other and always say, hey, we're the best at this and hey, we're the best at that. The only advertising that's ever held true material weight for me is word of mouth advertising. Is literally the users themselves telling someone else about the product. Now, this can go both ways. You know, when a product is shitty, people are pretty vocal about it too. So word of mouth is kind of a double-edged sword. Many advertisers are kind of hesitant to really go down a road of word of mouth, and instead they just hit you over the head with their own material and their own messaging. And that's the best way to advertise. That's the only way to advertise. Repeated messaging. Buy this, buy this, buy this, because we tell you to, you know? Hey, in a way, it works. It does work. But that's it. It's not what we're after here. I don't want that type of onboarding. It's not what I want. I don't want that type of kind of like a baiting. I don't want people to be like, well, what's this? I don't know. Okay, well, I've been seeing it. It's been advertised. Might as well. That's not the right way to audience capture that I'm really looking for. I want someone to come into this world because they have been introduced by someone by someone that they respect, by someone that they know, even if it's an online persona, even if it's your online friend, which a lot of us have truer online friends than we do in real life friends, let's be honest. So the challenge is tell one person this month, one person, and just introduce them to what we do. You don't have to tell them they have to sign up. You don't have to encourage them to become a patron. Well, maybe you do, but at least tell them that there is a place where these types of conversations are happening, and it's actually pretty fun. There's nowhere else quite like what we're doing. There's no other effort quite like what we're doing here. And I think that is special. And I think that is the differentiator. I think that is what we have to offer, is that it's kind of a one of one. It's wholly unique. And I think that's special. It's hard to do unique stuff. It's hard to do new stuff in a world where everything is recycled. It's tough. Even art, even the greatest works of art these days are derivatives. They're derivatives of something else it's a facsimile of something previously done. Maybe it's a new interpretation, and that's why, when you see something that's wholly new, God, it gets you. It speaks to you. It bursts through the noise. I think that's what we're doing here. Me and Rambo, all the guest voices that you hear, this is unique. So the task is introduce one person to the Realize Radio world. And they can even start on the free show. Remember, guys, we've got plenty of content, maybe like 25 recordings that are available for free on all major platforms, Realize Radio, And it's actually, those were done, last year and the year before, but it's kind of cool to go back and listen, kind of like rewind time and listen to what we were predicting back then with the knowledge we have now and everything unfolding now, to go back and hear that 2 years ago we were talking about these things. You know, it's fun. I love it. It's a hop in a time machine, but yeah, the time machine was predicting the future. It's cool. So, if they don't, I totally understand if they don't want to, what's this? I got to pay for it. Okay, I get it. Yeah, we'll start them out with the starter pack, with the free starter pack. Just send them the link to our Apple, to the link to the Apple podcast or the Spotify link or whatever, Podbean, Realize Radio. We've got a lot of free stuff. Start them there. If they like that, then they're going to like what's on Patreon. If they don't like that, then they're not going to like what's on Patreon, I wish the first season didn't have such rough audio, but that's how things that are organic are not perfect at the beginning. There's always growing pains. Anyway, make it it's Friday, so don't make it a great week. Make it a great weekend. Let's finish strong, guys. All right. Talk soon.